Ladies and gentlemen, a new chess drama has just dropped, and this one is particularly spicy. The people and the parties involved are Magnus Carlsen, Hikaru Nakamura, FIDE, the international governing body of the game, and more specifically, Arkady Dvorkovich, the president of FIDE, and last but not least, Jan-Henrik Buttner, and by extension, Freestyle Chess, which is the new disruptor in the world of chess, organizing those epic events across the globe. This video will be split and edited, which is pretty rare on this channel, into a few parts. First, a recap of all the drama on social media. Second, a reaction to a video that Hikaru put out called Why Magnus and Hikaru Almost Skipped the World Rapid and Blitz. Third, we will talk about FIDE, the international governing body of the game, and their direct involvement in this drama. Fourth, I will tell you a bit more about freestyle chess, why they're here, and why they matter. And last but not least, we will talk about the PCA and go back to the year 1993, the last time something like this happened with FIDE, and it led to chaos. Let's begin. This is part one. On December 21st, 2024, the Freestyle Chess Twitter account, because I'm not calling it X, put out a tweet that says, Freestyle, FIDE, and World Championship titles. On Thursday, December 19, 2024, the world's top chess players associated with the Freestyle Chess Players Club, FCPC, reached an agreement with Arkady Dvorkovich, president of the International Chess Federation. The agreement was facilitated by the Freestyle Chess operations with, specifically, Magnus Carlsen, Hikaru Nakamura, and Danny Wrench, the chief chess officer of Chess.com, the world's leading online chess platform. While the FCPC and FIDE continue amicable discussions regarding the mutual recognition of future world championship titles, both organizations emphasize their shared commitment to collaboration and respect, regardless of the outcome of these discussions. Arkady Dvorkovich directly addressed Magnus Carlsen and Hikaru Nakamura, stating, players will not be affected in any way, they can decide on their own, and FIDE will not take any negative action. Therefore, all players, especially the 25 members of the Freestyle Chess Players Club, may continue to participate in all Freestyle Chess Grand Slams, as well as in all FIDE tournaments. And the very next day, on December 22nd, Magnus Carlsen tweeted, "Let's keep growing the game." In between those two things came the mysterious Hikaru YouTube video about almost skipping the World Rapid and Blitz Championships, which begin, at the time of recording this video, in 3 days here in New York City. So all of this breaks out, and apparently Magnus and Hikaru almost didn't play the World Rapid and Blitz. And that was enough to make this video, but right before I sat down to do it, we got a tweet, allegedly, from Arkady Dvorkovich himself. I note the press release issued by the Freestyle Chess Players Club. While my quote has been presented accurately, I shall clarify that my decision as FIDE president was based on direct communication with the players. However, the full press release was not agreed upon with me, and it includes significant inaccuracies that misrepresent the situation. FIDE remains committed to maintaining transparency and fairness, and we will issue a statement on this matter next week. Signed by the FIDE president, Arkady Dvorkovich. Now, before I get into this video, I haven't spoken to Arkady, I haven't spoken to Freestyle Chess, I haven't spoken to Magnus, and I haven't spoken to Hikaru. Now, theoretically, that would be the journalism thing to do, or try to get to sources in the chess world. But this seems like a very mysterious and cryptic matter where I highly doubt any of these people would speak to me because they're too busy putting out obscure social media statements. I'm really confused. However, I think, knowing what I know about the history of chess over the last 30 years, and the history of chess in particular over the last 2 to 3 years, I can sort of connect the dots. You know that meme with all the red lines and the crazy conspiracy guy? That's gonna be me in this video, but I actually think I'm gonna make quite a bit of sense. So we now have 4 posts by the parties. Let's jump into part 2. Hikaru's YouTube video about almost skipping the World Rapid and Blitz. There's 2 main points that Hikaru made in this video that I would like to show you. Here they are.
Basically, what this is stating is that if players are going to play in the freestyle chess events, which are being organized by Jan-Henrik Buttner, the players can play in both. Now, I don't want to get deep into the weeds of exactly what FIDE was saying or threatening and all that other stuff, but there was a world where the players were going to be forced to choose between playing in that or playing in FIDE events. Now, the main reason that would occur is if FIDE sees them as a threat. I think FIDE looks at themselves as the governing body of chess, and they should have all the power, if I'm being honest about it. The reality is, if we're looking at the current chess landscape, and this is not to like really slam the, try and be really negative about FIDE and slam them, but the fact is, the vast majority of chess players currently do not make their money from FIDE.
So ultimately, after listening to Hikaru, it sounds like FIDE may have a problem with players participating in the freestyle chess Grand Slam tour. But that wouldn't make any sense, because chess players participate in the Champions Chess Tour, they participate in the Grand Chess Tour, they participate in tournaments not organized by FIDE, and they even play, let's say, Title Tuesday tournaments. So I don't think that's the big issue here. I'm sure there is something to do with the fact that there is a world championship title being thrown out potentially. So here's my theory. Is it about the world championship of Fischer Random? Did you know, for example, that Hikaru Nakamura is the defending world champion of Fischer Random? Fischer Random is called Fischer Random because it was invented by Bobby Fischer. It was then later changed to Chess 960, also Chess 9LX for Roman numerals, I suppose, and lately Freestyle Chess. I gotta tell you, of all the names, probably Freestyle Chess is the best one. But is that the argument here? That the World Championship of Fischer Random has sort of not been able to get a lift off the ground? There's only been a few of them. They're sort of inconsistent. Is that the argument? Now, before we move on to part 3, again, I reiterate, the video is titled, "Both Magnus and Hikaru almost skipped the World Rapid and Blitz." This must have been a pretty heated back and forth, not just, we want to call it the Freestyle Chess World Championship. I mean, if it's that simple, we're going to get into a little bit more of that in part number 3 in terms of naming rights. But this is pretty intense. I'm not sure that was ever fully addressed and elaborated upon in the video, so fascinating stuff. Let's keep going. In part 3, I promised we would discuss FIDE. Look, FIDE just celebrated 100 years of existence. It's the international governing body of the game. FIDE doesn't just govern things like the World Chess Championship or the Candidates or the World Cup, which are their 3 premier tournaments. They also do all sorts of other things. They have programs in schools, they have programs in prisons, they have programs for folks with disability. I mean, for God's sake, they are literally the international rating system. Any tournament you play locally, you probably have to submit to FIDE to rate. They do a lot of good. I mean, it's not easy to just like throw them aside and say, we're going to implement a whole new rating system. But historically, there has been, a little bit of a tension, and we'll talk about that later in the video, between the players and FIDE's ability to bring in sponsorship and money on the level of a FIFA, which is what Hikaru said. But again, specifically in this case, there is precedent for the naming rights of a world championship. Look no further than April 2022, when Chess.com wanted to announce the Chess.com World Championship. Take a quick look.
Hey everyone, that's right. We actually are launching the first ever Chess.com World Championship. With $1 million in prizes, anyone can play, anyone can win, and everyone will have a chance to take home their part in this $1 million cash prize event, because regular prizes will be available even for non-title players.
But literally 8 days later, this happened.
Chess.com announces the Chess.com Global Championship. With $1 million in prizes. With the globe's best chess players.
And again, if you look at some of the last tournaments over the last even 2 years, they are all FIDE World Championships, they are FIDE Candidates, and they are FIDE Grand Swisses and FIDE World Cups. I sort of get it, because imagine just a group of random people decided that they would make a rival to FIFA. I don't know what they would call it, but nobody's really stopping them, theoretically. I think there would be some problems there. I don't think it's that easy. I don't think you can come in and call yourself the Duda World Cup. You can't just make another acronym and just call yourself the World Cup. But in this case, I don't know, does FIDE have World Chess Championship trademarked? Do any of those words count as intellectual property? That's where it gets a little bit weird. And if somebody did try to organize their own World Championship, I'm not a lawyer at all. It's not even close, but I can't even begin to surmise what a body like FIDE would be able to do to stop them. The only thing that I can think of is that they would control the players from playing, right? You can basically say, you could go play in those events, but then you can't come back and play in these events. And that might be also what this is about. I don't know, right? That I haven't spoken to the parties. But I'm just giving you all the information. Now, let's talk about freestyle chess. Freestyle chess burst onto the scene in February of 2024. They organized the Freestyle Goat Chess Challenge. It had a lot of words. It was organized at the Weissenhaus Resort near Hamburg, Germany, and it was a spectacle. It was a high production event with a lot of money poured in, and ultimately it couldn't really be replicated without, again, the generous efforts of Jan-Henrik Buttner, who probably spent close to $1 to $2 million out of pocket. And in November of 2024, Magnus Carlsen and Fabiano Caruana met on a yacht in Singapore. There was a bunch of footage of this, photo shoots, etc. Then they played in a bank vault and so on and so forth. They had a press conference. And in between that, they raised $12 million from Left Lane Capital based right here in New York City. And with that money, they will be organizing the Grand Slam Tour, which has an event coming up again in Germany, then in Paris, then in New York, India, and South Africa. And apparently now there is a freestyle chess players club with 25 players, invitation only, from around the world. I'm getting kind of a Formula One vibe. Like, put the package in a box, go set it up in a city, put on a big spectacle for the fans and for the players, and keep it moving. Freestyle chess is a disruptor of sorts. On the one hand, you kind of see the Magnus effect. Magnus has been saying classical chess, particularly the openings, aren't TV friendly. He's not a huge fan of classical chess in this part of his career. He's not playing a lot of classical chess events. Now he has financial backing to put on this epic spectacle. He will play in all of these events, and he is by far the biggest attractor of eyeballs, maybe second soon just purely by numbers to Gukesh, but it's obviously, Magnus is the superstar of chess. And freestyle is both good and bad. It's good in the sense that it's a completely new product. It's got huge backing, and it could operate as a sort of auxiliary sports league, I pronounced that word a bit poorly, in the world of chess to traditional classical formats. On the flip side, chess is hard enough, and I feel like 90-something% of you watching are like, yeah, I struggle to remember the moves of the London and the Caro-Kann. I can barely understand chess commentary unless it's broken down for me. Now freestyle gets even more crazy because they spend 15 minutes on the first 3 moves because there's no openings. So it's good and bad. And I think that's any sort of innovation in any sort of field. It's going to be positive and negative. If done correctly, it should probably do more good than harm in the long run. Ultimately, I've said the same thing time and time again in the world of chess. I think top players should feel the effect of the chess boom more than people like myself. I mean, a YouTuber, despite what you may think of me, whether I'm a good educator, good communicator of the game, really handsome, really smart and quirky, thank you, by the way, thank you for all those compliments, I still believe that the athletes should be the stars. And that's not really the case in chess. And we're trying to get there. But the only real way to get there is to find the sweet spot of how to present chess as a TV sports commercial product. Because sporting events have tickets, and chess really struggles to pack an arena, considering everybody in the audience can use a little device that can give them information about the game, and you can somehow, get that to the players. And also chess requires total silence. It's not so simple. So I'm really excited to see how freestyle chess is able to innovate. I'm actually going to be there February of 2025. I will be helping put on the event in Germany. Then I won't be involved for the next couple just due to traveling and so on. But I want to bring as much chess as we can to the masses in whatever format they find interesting. And with that, we should talk about the final component of this video and why it matters, because there's a precedent to all of this stuff that's currently going on, and that is the PCA. Here's the short story, all right? I'm not a chess historian. I wasn't even alive when this was happening. So I'm going to give you my kind of Cliff Notes version. Garry Kasparov was the first of his kind to push for an initiative like this. In the year 1993, he was already multiple-time world champion, admittedly against Anatoly Karpov. He kind of defended his title repeatedly against one man, but he was set to play Nigel Short. And due to various issues, which I've read had to do with the announcement of the venue, probably disagreements of the prize fund sponsor, whatever it might be, ultimately, they kind of rebelled. They didn't play the world championship under the FIDE banner. They played their own world championship. They ended up calling it the Classical world championship in 1993 under the PCA. And their major sponsor was Intel, which is, I mean, you talk about getting a big sponsor. That's a big sponsor. And then in 1995, Kasparov played Anand, and this was at the World Trade Center. Like, you can't get chess on a bigger stage. All this time, meanwhile, FIDE is organizing their own thing. So there are 2 world champions for the first time, I think, ever. But in 1996, the Intel sponsor ultimately fell through. And then there was not another world championship for Kasparov until 2000, which is the world championship that he lost to Kramnik, and that was organized by Brain Games. There were still 2 world champions until 2006. There was a reunification title match between Vladimir Kramnik and Veselin Topalov. Some of you might remember this as Toilet Gate, but yeah, that was the reunification bout. So for 13 years, the sitting world champion, the lineal world champion, let's call him the Francis Ngannou of chess, because Francis Ngannou is was the UFC heavyweight champion, but he stepped away. Nobody actually defeated him to take his title. Garry Kasparov created a whole lineage of world champions that ended up having to reunify with FIDE. So to summarize, we have 4 very cryptic pieces of information out there, and the last of which was put out this morning, December 23rd, 2024, by the president of FIDE himself, who said, next week, I will put out a bigger statement. But then you have the Hikaru video saying, we almost skipped the World Rapid and Blitz, not really elaborating on that, just sort of dropping the mic. And now the president is saying, well, maybe after the World Rapid and Blitz, we'll talk about it. I don't know what's going on here, but it seems like there's a lot more than just these posts. Is it simply a matter of freestyle wanting the world championship rights? Do they want to call it the freestyle world champion? Or is there something bigger bubbling under the surface, which ultimately could lead to there being a whole series of tournaments that are not under FIDE banner and ultimately lead to a rift where Hikaru, let's say, does not participate in the candidate cycle or the World Chess Championship? I don't know. But now you have all the information. I hope this was a useful providing of context for you. And, my final thoughts, like I said already throughout this video, are having an international governing body of the game does give a level of stability to have a ranking system, and they do a lot of good things. But when that governing body also owns the rights to things like the World Chess Championship, and there are even questions about it existing, like, should the format be different? Right? Should the system be different? Should the FIDE circuit, where Fabiano and Arjun are crushing each other and rules are changing every single year, should that be different? Nobody really has an easy answer. But like Hikaru's point is saying, most top players are now not earning their money, a major share of it, through FIDE events. And that's big, because that could mean some changes are waiting in the future. I don't know. So that's all I have for you today. World Rapid and Blitz starts in a few days. You can still claim the lowest price on Chessly for now until December 31st. You know all my other, promo stuff, so get out of here.